Good evening. Welcome to the Library Commission's April 18th meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Library Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. At this time, I'd like to introduce staff and Library Commission members who are present for this meeting. We have Vice Chair Alan Cohen, Commissioner Katie Hadrovic, Commissioner Pavneet Singh, Commissioner Vamsi Velagapudi. Also present from staff are Sean Reinhart, Director of Library and Community Services, Nick Shegda, Assistant Director of Library Services. There's nobody else, right?
I think you got us all.
Okay. Well, actually, I got 8 people in and 7 people on the screen. Okay. Nick, at this time, would you please provide instructions to the Library Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Earhart. At various times throughout the meeting, the chair will call for public comment on items. If you wish to make a public comment, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you're dialing in, press *9. The chair will then, the chair will recognize you. I'll move you over the wall and allow you to unmute yourself, and you can make your comment. When making a public comment, please state the jurisdiction in which you live. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per item. For commissioners, please keep your cameras on and your microphones off until recognized by the chair. Back to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll move to general public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the Library Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Library Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The Library Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Library Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. At this time, staff liaison, do we have any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Chair Earhart, if any member of the public would like to make a comment on an item not on the agenda tonight, please use that raise hand function now. And seeing none.
Thank you very much. Move on to regular business. Under regular business, the Library Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Library Commission approval. The first item under regular business, D1, is approving the minutes from the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Library Commission. At this time, are there any clarifying questions from the Commission before taking public comment? Seeing none. Staff liaison, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Earhart, if any member of the public would like to make a comment on item D1, approving the minutes from the March 21st, 2022 Library Commission meeting, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen or press *9 now. And seeing none, back to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you. At this time, I'm open up the meeting for any discussion between Library Commission members on the meeting minutes from the 21st. Any questions, comments, clarifications?
I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Staff liaison, please state the motion.
So the motion made by Commissioner Hadrovic and seconded by Vice Chair Cohen is to approve the meeting minutes from the March 21st, 2022 meeting. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote because some of our attendees may not be watching, they may be dialing in. So when I call your name, please answer verbally how you vote. Commissioner Singh.
Aye.
Commissioner Velagapudi.
Aye.
Commissioner Hadrovich,
In favor, aye.
Vice Chair Cohen,
I'm muted, sorry. Aye.
and Chair Earhart.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Wouldn't be a meeting without at least one, I'm on mute. Okay. Thank you for that. At this time, we'll move on to item D2, the MPCC operational plan milestones. I believe we have a staff report. This item appeared as an information item last meeting and at the April 12th City Council meeting, and is returning to the commission for discussion and public input. Before we begin commission discussion and hear public comment, we have a staff presentation on this item. Library and Community Services Director Sean Reinhart will make the presentation.
Thank you, Chair Earhart, and good evening, commissioners and members of the public in attendance. As Chair Earhart mentioned, this information was conveyed to the commission last month as an informational report, and we're just kind of coming back now to have a little bit more discussion about it. So I have a presentation to walk through. It's essentially kind of summarizing the information that was in the report last month. So without further ado, I'll just dive in. With a nice picture, a rendering of the front of the facility here. So the main entrance, the library, adult library space is up above, as you recall. And then through the entry and past the hallway and through this little portal here and that door back there is the children's library in the new facility. Just a little bit of background. As we all know, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, submitted its proposal to build a new facility back in December of 2019. City Council approved the plans. A little bit more than a year later, construction began last summer in June. The foundation was poured last month. The steel framework is going up, basically completed actually now. If you haven't been out to the site, they're at 100 Terminal Avenue recently. I recommend you go out there because you can see the scale of the building. It's really cool. And then looking ahead to spring of next year, about a year from now, we anticipate having certificates of occupancy for the staff to begin to move in and installing furniture and whatnot, with a tentative grand opening in summer of next year. So pretty fast. And very exciting. I don't have a picture of the steel. I need to update my pictures, but this drone picture is too cool to not share. This is what the site looked like right after they cleared it, the old former Onetta Harris Community Center. The new building is being constructed basically in this zone back here. And you can see the existing field back here. Some of the old parking is still there, which will be resurfaced and expanded to kind of cover this area here on the site. So I want to take a moment to talk about some guiding principles as we understand them from the City Council for programming and operating this new facility. As mentioned in the staff report, the City Council formed a Menlo Park Community Campus, or MPCC subcommittee, to work on various aspects of the project, including looking at existing City Council policy statements that are relevant to the new center. And as we are preparing for operating the new center, we want to have some guiding principles in mind. This new project is a long-held dream for the community. It's been many years in the making. So many community conversations, especially from neighborhood voices, Belhaven Neighborhood Association, Belhaven Action, and others, have helped to establish a vision for what people want from this new center and bring it to reality. A multi-generational community center that serves the needs of Belhaven residents, as well as all city residents, and that is inclusive of all residents, in particular neighborhood residents, and that it serves as a milestone and a landmark that moves Menlo Park even closer to justice and fairness for all residents. So in that spirit, the City Council, the MPCC subcommittee identified existing City Council policy statements that help provide some guiding principles for the new facility. These policies prioritize inclusion, belonging, justice, and fairness for all Menlo Park residents. So from the City Council cost recovery policy, which was updated just last summer, there's a statement here that they included, which is in the staff report, but I'll quickly walk through that the City of Menlo Park provides services and infrastructure that contribute to quality of life for all Menlo Park residents. And in so doing, the city strives to balance the resources and requirements of each area of the city in an equitable manner for all residents in all neighborhoods of the city. The City of Menlo Park prioritizes social justice in decisions that affect residents' lives, the fair, just, and equitable management of all institutions serving the public directly or by contract, and the fair, just, and equitable distribution of public services and implementation of public policy, and the commitment to promote fairness, justice, and equity in the formation of public policy. So pretty clear and powerful statement from the City Council. That's part of the cost recovery policy, very much applicable to this new facility, because cost recovery, one of the things that it applies to is community centers. And let's see, moving on. From the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan, which was approved by the City Council in 2019, there's some additional statements about Menlo Park's system of recreation facilities and park facilities, the concept of one Menlo Park, making sure to meet the needs of all members of the Menlo Park community, providing equitably distributed opportunities that engage users and are accessible to residents of all ages and abilities throughout the city. It also notes that each new park or facility or significant renovation of an existing facility should contribute to satisfying the recreational needs of the neighborhood that it serves, kind of a neighborhood focus, and be integrated into a system that serves the entire community, complementing the mix of uses in the city, specifically to be neighborhood serving, making sure that parks, facilities, amenities, and programs serve residents of all Menlo Park neighborhoods, and to prioritize renovation and new constructions that balance community benefits with potential neighborhood impact. So for example, big new center being built in Bellhaven, it's great. There will be some impacts to the neighborhood that we have to really kind of balance and make sure that it's not out of balance and the impacts are not too great of the new center on the neighborhood, that is. A few more statements about universal design. This is really about removing physical and programmatic barriers to participation for individuals with disabilities, using principles of universal design, making sure that folks of all ages, physical, perceptual, cognitive abilities are included. Here's another rendering. This is of the back of the building. Now we're kind of looking at the back side of the image we saw previously. Children's library down here, adult library up here, makerspace back there with the terrace overlooking the field, and opportunity for a nice mural here. It won't be this specific piece of art, something commissioned, but this is like a placeholder to show where it is. You can see the children's library has that like nice little outdoor kind of courtyard patio area outside of the building. And then just moving into the estimated milestones, I won't spend a lot of time on these because there's quite a few of them and they are listed in the report, but just we'll outline that it's kind of outlined in seasons by quarter, just to give a sense of this is the type of work that needs to be completed in advance of the facility opening to ensure that all the planning and operational systems are in place prior to the opening. And so again, I won't mention these very specifically, but you can see how they're kind of broken into different categories, such as programming planning, operations planning, physical things like furnishings and equipment, policy updates, implementing new software, evaluating certain programs at City Council's direction, like the Aquatics program for a potentially new model. That's in winter and spring. Looking ahead to summer, more of the same. One thing I want to specifically call out is a facility naming process would potentially be initiated here. I know there were many members of the community who had strong interest in this area, so we're anticipating that might begin this summer. Also, the Friends of Menlo Park Library and the Menlo Park Library Foundation are planning to spearhead a fundraising effort so that all members of the community be a part of the opening day and enhancing this new facility, making it the best it can be. So looking to unveil that potentially this summer. More operations and programming plans. Later in the summer, additionally, some more policy updates, which many of those will be coming through the Library Commission for review. Looking ahead to the autumn, seeking a new aquatics operator, starting to purchase the furnishing and equipment. I'll call out that the facility naming tentatively would be decided by autumn. It really would need to be decided by that time frame because the construction team actually needs to fabricate the signs in time for the opening. So it's kind of a deadline there. Another interstitial image. This is of the Aquatic Center, the pool, which is outside. Locker rooms are behind here on the ground floor. This is all kind of to the left of the main entrance when you're looking at the building. Up above, a fitness center and a movement studio. It looks fun. I can't wait to get up there. More stuff in autumn regarding programming planning, additional policy updates, moving into winter, looking at the aquatics operator, getting started up or transitioning into the new facility. And then we'll be looking seriously at plans to renovate the Kelly Park field and track. It's about 10 years old. It's time to renovate, especially the turf. We want to wait until the new facility is done and then turn our attention to that. So just so you know, that's kind of starting up more operations plans. Looking ahead to spring of 2023, that's when we're really getting close to the opening. So preparing for that, hopefully getting our certificates of occupancy, preparing some of the temporary locations or current locations like the Bellhaven Branch Library over at the school to preparing them to move into the new facility. And then a lot of startup kind of stuff, including the library opening day collection of books being delivered and put on the shelves. And then in summer, looking at a grand opening, starting the operations, doing community tours, decommissioning and shutting down the branch library at the school because we have moved into the new one at that point, and also reverting the main library and recreation center spaces that are currently housing the senior center on a temporary basis. The senior center would move back into that new center. And then we don't want to lose sight of awards and certifications that the facility might achieve, such as LEED certification, net zero energy certification, and any architectural awards, and doing any community satisfaction surveys. So with that, here's a wonderful view of the parking lot, which I want to point out will have carports over almost all of the parking with solar panels on top. And that solar energy will be used to offset the energy use of the new facility, which will be all electric, no natural gas. And in addition, there will be a microgrid of batteries on site to store some of that energy to then be fed back into the building, like at night when the sun's not shining in the winter and so forth. And so with that, that completes the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sean. I'm sorry, I'm just getting through the. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission before taking public comment on this item? I don't see any. So Staff Liaison, would you please call for public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair Earhart. If at this point any member of the public would like to make a comment on item D2, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you're dialing in, press *9 now. See at least one public comment. And our first public commenter is Pam Jones. Ms. Jones, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and address the commission.
Yes, thank you. And I really appreciate you referring to me as Miss Jones. My great granddaughter the youngest one had her 6th birthday last week. At any rate, Pamela Jones, resident, long time resident of the Bellhaven community. And I have just a couple of comments. This really is getting exciting. And about once a week, I go by and look at the progress And even on a weekly basis, there is progress, which is encouraging. And then I also get to see the other 4 projects that are going on over nearby. A couple of comments. One, I understand the furniture has to be durable, how important it is, but it also needs to be pleasing to the eye and comfortable. And when I first looked at it, I was thinking, oh, wow, it looks like the 50s. And then another person said, no, it looks like IKEA. So that made me think of, we want to have something, that really invites people that we can afford, understand that. We need to consider accessibility and particularly things like elders who need to sit on harder surfaces. And the height needs to be a little bit higher because it's often difficult to get up, especially if you've had hip replacements, which is common under the elderly. There's always the piece about outreach that is really critical. And given that according to the census, well over half of our community is Latino, and we don't know who's Spanish speaking only in that group, and that part doesn't really matter, but we would be far more welcoming if we provided language services. So even if we don't have them at a meeting, translation is key, and translating the PowerPoints. The housing element, as well as the Independent Redistricting Commission, they figured it out. So when you look at their meetings, they're in both Spanish and English, and they're there forever, which is always nice. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that it is also critically important that we maintain the library at the children's library at the Bellhaven School. It was hard enough getting in there, and they're still going to need it because I don't see them doing field trips over to our new library. Again, thank you, commissioners, for the work that you're doing and the commitment, and thank you, staff.
Thanks very much for your comment. Does anyone else have a comment that they would like to make on item D2? Please raise your hand now. Last call for public comment on this item. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open up this item for Library Commission discussion. Just to sort of frame it, there isn't a specific action that the commission is called upon to take with this item. This really is an opportunity for us to provide some feedback, ask questions, clarify, so that the staff can take forward our input. So with that, are there any questions or comments from the commission? Like we've got one, Nick. Looks like Commissioner Leap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Commissioner Leap has their hand up.
I just love the suggestion of having signage in Spanish also, especially in a neighborhood where the large number of people who live there speak Spanish. I think that's great.
Thank you. I guess I'll jump in. I just want to make sure the parentheses CC in the presentation, those items are ones that are going to go back in front of the city council. Is that what the nomenclature was? Just make sure I confirm.
Yes, those indicate items that will have city council action or direction. This information was also transmitted to the city council, so that's why it's there.
Okay. It was hard to. Again, I'm not looking for more work, but I'm trying to understand, are there any precursors to those phases where the Library Commission would be doing something other than entertaining an informational presentation? I guess I'm just trying to understand what staff is thinking, the Library Commission sort of pre-approval of what goes to the, to the council for ultimate choice, selection.
Yes, that's a great question. So let me share my screen again here, just to get one of the slides up here for an example. So a good example would be under things like operations plan and policy. where the Library Commission's charge is to, to advise the City Council and by extension the staff on things related to operating the library. So for example, in the summer, looking to come to the Library Commission with a discussion and some input about the library materials opening day collection. So the selection of books and media that are going to go in there. We'll talk a little bit about volunteers and external partners also with the commission this summer. Volunteers and external partners are a huge part of the library's operations. To some extent, we'll probably hear about the community fundraising campaign. I know that the Friends of Menlo Park Library are particularly interested in sponsoring the library opening day collection, for example. So we'll talk about that. Looking at, I'll just go one more slide and then kind of stop, but there's more if you just go through them all. For example, departmental policy updates around the library collection development policy would be one for the commission certainly to review. Things like, where was the other one? Meeting room policy, I'm sorry, is right above that, because this new facility will have meeting rooms, including meeting rooms that are embedded in the library space. So those are like a few examples. I could go through the entire list, but hopefully that's illustrative. Basically, anything that touches library, we'd want to present that to the commission, not only for the commissioner's feedback, but to provide another opportunity for the public, since the meetings are public.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on the MPCC operational plan? Okay. Thank you for that. At this time, there's no action to be taken. Let's move on to agenda item D3, the revised library use guidelines. Assistant Library Director Nick Shedga will introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Earhart. Going to share my screen here, pulling up the proposed edits and additions to the library use guidelines. These changes are brought about because of changing library services. So we change some of our use policies when we change our services. And the thing that we've been doing a lot of lately is remote programming for children and teens, for adults too, but for children and teens, and realizing that we needed to make some adjustments to our use guidelines to account for that. I've highlighted them here in this document. They were also in the report. Not really a lot controversial here or much changes here. When we get down to a section of library events, we thought we would call it out in particular. How we register people, whether they're on or off site, and sort of calling out that youth events are targeted for youth, teens, and the caregivers of the youth, and not really targeted for other participating adults. So that's what this section is here for. And then some things about staff being able to enforce guidelines and the use guidelines during virtual events, which we didn't have before. You can see we had some sort of enforcement things down here, but it's a little bit, we wanted to call them out at virtual events. I think that are the main changes. I'm going to stop sharing so we can take comment and discuss, but I can bring that policy back up for reference if you would like.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission before we take public comment?
Can I just ask a quick question? I think you just said this, but my assumption was that when I was looking at this ahead of time, any changes to the policy was the highlighted language and everything else was exactly the same, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then when you highlight things you've added, have you taken anything out that we wouldn't know was taken out that had been redlined or anything. It's really helpful. I appreciate seeing the highlighted stuff, but I didn't know if anything had been altered other than that.
I think we just added things in this time. I don't think we removed anything. We would have called that out as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question, but I think it's not a clarifying question, so I'll hold it for afterwards. So, Stephanie and Son, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair Earhart. If at this time you would like to make a comment on item D3, the revised library use guidelines, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom screen, or if you're dialing in, press *9 now. And seeing no comment, back to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you. The one question that came to mind, based on the intent to ask somebody to turn on their video and then for somebody to make an assessment about the suitability of them being in the session, which would require something around assessing age or the appropriateness of their attendance. Has this have those modifications been vetted with the city attorney? Is this raise any questions issues as far as public access to activities?
I think that that's a great question. I think that the intent of that is for the programs for very small children. So like a baby story time or something like that. I don't think that they would be used otherwise, maybe for the youth and teen programs. I can see what you're saying there. That's an interesting point. You don't really want to put staff on the spot of making the determination whether someone is a teen or not a teen, I guess. Is that sort of the question?
That's part of it. And then I assume we currently have policies which allow exclusion based on a target,
Yes.
group that you're trying to deliver the programming to, correct?
Exactly right. Yeah, those same policies that we're sort of making the modifications so that they would apply to virtual programs are in effect for in-person programming. So we don't allow unaccompanied adults into a baby story time, say, or we wouldn't allow unaccompanied adults into a program that was targeted for teens and for teen participants.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for a great question and a great point, Chair Earhart. So really it's transferring kind of the existing policies around in-person events to the virtual environment for vulnerable populations like kids. And the crux of the video, having the video, isn't so much to assess the age of the attendee. The policy is that only children or teens, as the case may be, are allowed to attend those events and their caregivers. So any adult in such an event who is not there as a caregiver of a child or a teen, our policy would exclude them from being there. So it's more about, are they there with another attendee who's a child or a teen, as opposed to solo.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Hedgewick?
Yeah, I had one. When you're talking about adults being there as accompanying, do you usually have them on a separate screen than the kids, or are they they have the kid on their lap or they're walking back and forth? I wouldn't think that you would ever have the need for two screens, but all of my kids are grown, so I haven't had to endure this pandemic trying to manage that with younger kids.
No, you're right, Commissioner Hadrovich. Usually for things like the toddler and baby story time sing-along programs, there's usually one Zoom screen, one camera per family attendee. So it's not usual at all that there would be, a parent zooming in from a separate room of the same house who was chaperoning a kid attendee in a separate room.
Have you had any instances where, say, like a grandparent who's not with the children in the house, but maybe wants to participate in an event with their grandchildren, or I'm giving that as an example, but that type of situation, has that popped up at all, or is that just not even something to think about?
It hasn't popped up. I mean, I think that sort of situation, it would be fine, but we would want them to identify themselves and who they were attending with, or how they were connected to one of the children participants.
Okay, so if you were getting something like that, or even I can think of, situation where maybe you've got divorced parents and they both want to participate in something, you've got a way for them, as long as you get some sort of confirmation from someone that's associated with the child saying this person is legitimately related to them, there wouldn't be any problem with that, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We have Commissioner Singh.
Yeah, thanks. Under what conditions would you ever return to just in-person events? I mean, or is this, do you think, going to carry on indefinitely, irrespective of conditions on COVID?
That's interesting, because I think some things actually work really well as virtual events, cooking programs, say, or a lecture. But story times and those kind of literacy building things, the virtual event version is inferior. I think the librarians would call it inferior to the in-person events. So we're still having them because vaccines are not universally available for all ages yet. And even if they were, some folks still aren't really comfortable coming back together in groups. So we're still in this kind of in-between hybrid phase right now. I do suspect that a lot of our programs that are now virtual will transform back into in-person events when the COVID situation gets sorted. We tried our first hybrid event with an adult story time, a story time for adults last Friday, and I haven't heard how that went yet. So we'll see how that goes. The city council, I mean, for meetings like for this commission meeting, a hybrid meeting could be very valuable, because it would increase participation from people who had mobility issues, or who just didn't want to get out of their living room but wanted to participate in the public process. And I think that could have some real opportunities for continuing. But I think those kind of events that we're talking about that are going to be covered by this policy change, those events will probably be coming back on site when the COVID situation gets resolved.
Thanks.
Any other comments? I have one more, but I don't want to dominate the conversation. So I think the case that Commissioner Hedrick raised, which wasn't what I was thinking of in terms of dual parents, but potentially a parent who was traveling, and this offered the opportunity to participate, remotely, with the child. I guess is it useful, or would you consider augmenting the language in the policy to recognize that it wouldn't require concurrent video, being in the same video, but that you would have the ability to confirm that there was a virtual attendee that they were a partner with? I just in terms of being maybe a little bit more clear about it. And in terms of enabling, allow them to say, oh, they will allow that, so I can do it, versus I don't see it written here, so I'm not gonna try to take advantage of, take the opportunity to do it. So
yeah, thank you. That's helpful feedback, because from just kind of a different perspective, it sounds like some additional clarification maybe would help, so that it's more explicit that you certainly can zoom in from a couple of different screens. That's okay. I'll just back up and say, as with pretty much all of the library use guidelines, they're kind of detailed. Well, they are detailed because each one does typically have like a story behind it. It became necessary to spell it out. For example, in a virtual event that's really geared toward a young audience, in which they're engaging in themes and conversation that's really for that audience, and then to have attendee who is there regularly, camera off, not responsive to inquiries about, hey, who's that, and basically making the situation seem maybe uncomfortable and even unsafe for some of the participants. So, that's kind of where we realize that, some additional policy around this, including a mechanism to potentially, remove folks from the meeting if they're just not even identifying themselves. We have no idea who they are. So that's kind of where it's coming from. But if in the process of crafting this language, it makes it seem like zooming in from 2 screens is not acceptable, we'll see what we can do to make it a little clearer that it's totally acceptable.
Thanks for considering it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's no action to be taken on us. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I am glad to see that we can continue on maybe with a hybrid situation that would be more inclusive for people going forward. All right. Moving to agenda item D4. Let me sort of give a little bit of background for this. This has been this topic of library affiliate groups we've touched on a few times. We do the kind of the report out at the end of the meetings, and a subject that we've kind of spoken about earlier, but want to spend a little bit of time tonight in discussion was how to re-engage constructively with the affiliate groups to the point of inviting them to participate in a meeting, or if they wanted to, and as opposed to, I know when I joined 3 years ago, there was kind of this formalism of an expectation of the affiliate groups coming and giving a presentation, and ultimately some tension or pushback or friction from that, and then we've now kind of gone completely. We haven't engaged back with that. We've obviously done our affiliate liaison roles, which is kind of trying to I guess compensate for that somewhat. But we do want to go back and reconsider what the commission, what the thoughts the commission has about an invitation or an opportunity, identifying a meeting with time for affiliate groups to come in and communicate with the commission directly at their prerogative. So that's what the item is. I do want to stop and ask for clarifying questions about that before we go to public comment. Then we'll return back to have the conversation about it. Okay, is that clear? We kind of need to get the public comment thing sorted before we start with it. But I want to make sure that the commission understands what we're going to do after public comment relative to this topic. Any questions? Okay. Staff liaison, would you please call for a public comment on this topic?
Thank you, Chair Earhart. If anyone would like to make a public comment on item D4, discussing presentation opportunities for library affiliate groups, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom screen, or press *9 if you're dialing in now. And seeing no comments and no raised hands, back to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners. And where I'd like to go with this is kind of arrive at a point where we say, yes, there's something formally we want to communicate to the affiliate groups, and then when we do the agenda calendar in the next couple of items, just sort of potentially offer a window or potential opportunities for affiliate group communication with the council, with the commission, and so I guess I'm trying to get your feedback now in terms of if you think there's some value to that, and maybe ideas about how we might engage in that, other than the sort of crazy vision I have in terms of letting them know that this is an opportunity and here are the windows where you could potentially come and give a presentation.
Well, but so can I make a quick comment?
Please do.
Yeah, I never got a sense that it was formal because we have an agenda and we scheduled a spot. but short of that, my impression was I don't think we ever intentionally made this such a formal process that hopefully it was dissuasive to various groups. I think sometimes just reminding people that we exist, that this group meets on a regular basis, and that here's our calendar, even though people may be informed as to the dates of these meetings, the turnout to these things now that they're virtual is kind of thin. Let's call it what it is. So maybe we just make them aware that we really would like to be re-engaged. And here's the dates that we have our meetings. And if there's an upcoming meeting that you think there's enough interest to want to maybe give us an update, we're happy to reciprocate. I think we just do it as an invitation and not make it so formal. That would be my suggestion. Apparently that got a lot of hands raised. So there you go.
Well, thank you for kicking off the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Commissioner Lee.
So my understanding was that the reason that it became kind of was that it became kind of awkward or complicated was because the other people from the other groups felt summoned to the library commission meetings. And Alan, I love the idea of us going to their meetings also. I think that would make it, it would make it feel more equitable. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, so Commissioner Villigapudi, I think you were up next.
And maybe just to echo the sentiment so far, because I checked in with at least Mike from Literacy Partners, that they've always felt that they can, if they wanted to raise something, they felt they could come to the Library Commission, so they never felt excluded. But I think to the way that Kristen and Alan talked about it, they didn't want to have something on the schedule in 2 months, which they had felt an obligation to meet. So I would just avoid potentially putting something on the calendar, but opening an invitation and just reaffirming the fact they could attend if they'd like to, I think is a very good thing to do without a formal calendar invite, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Hedgevick.
I think we're all in agreement about a lot of this, and I see the value of having and maybe feeling it out, having an invitation, setting a date when we would invite these partners to come and share anything they wanted to with us or not come, but specifically because, you know, our meeting is a public meeting, it's recorded, it's on Zoom, so it's convenient and people can go back and look at our minutes, they can go back and actually watch the recording. And at least with the two groups that I act as the liaison to, you know, both of them were looking for people to join their boards at different times. I think about Literacy Partners where they're probably looking for volunteers, Friends are looking for volunteers. And I see our meeting maybe again reframing it so they don't feel summoned, they don't feel like they have to come and give a report to justify their existence when we don't hold any power over them, but more as this is an opportunity for you to get your message out to the public, to invite volunteers, to invite people to become members. You know, the historical group, I'm blanking on their official name, they just sent out their quarterly newsletter, and it's a wonderful publication that I know they would like to have everybody in Menlo Park receiving. So, you know, my thinking is let's offer this up as an invitation to come to a public forum where people can see what you do, how you affect the community, and what you might want to do to grow your organization by using the Library Commission vehicle.
Thank you. I guess let me sort of try to bring a couple of the ideas together. I mean, my thought, there's two things. We do kind of need to manage the agenda a little bit. And so I think it sounds like there's a pretty good consensus that an invitation, making it versus a summons. If invitation means you could say no, summons sort of suggests there's some penalty to saying no. So an invitation, you know, and I guess that would be something that I could draft as the commission chair, and we could then distribute it to the affiliate groups. But I do think there would be some it would be desirable for them to say, hey, you know, for them to say, hey, can I, you know, I would like to come speak to the commission, and here's the time frame I'd like to do it. That way we could plan for it and have it be, as opposed to, and what I think we're pushing back on is having a affiliate window, 2 months out, that they're feeling like they're, which
Right.
I think is a great feedback, not to not do that, but say, we'd like to have you on the calendar. So, let us know what works for you, and we'll bake you into the agenda, basically. Does that seem like a fair?
Yeah, and can I'm not going to click on the hand. I actually have a hand here. So I think Katie made a very good point, and that may be part of the thing to remind folks is that, a lot of their meetings, I mean, quite honestly, it's unfortunate. I really liked going to the group that raises money for the library by getting book donations, but they met at a time that I can't be there anymore. I'm traveling for work, but I know there was a lot of confusion, and I think there still remains a bit of confusion as to when can you donate books, how do you donate books, where do you put them? I mean, there's still plenty of signs all over the place, but I think people are still a little baffled and a little confused, and I think it's had an impact on book donations in general, although it's coming back up from what I understand. So the point I'm trying to make is, and I think Katie brought this up, remind them that our meetings are actually recorded and minutes are maintained, and it's another way to get information about what they're doing out there through another vehicle. So I think that's I like to think that these meetings are a resource as an opportunity for a variety of interested parties to not only engage, but also to get information shared with us, but pointed outwards. And I think if for no other reason than that, there should be some interest. So I don't know. I kind of like that point. And I think it's worth highlighting to just remind people.
Sure. Okay. Any other feedback or comments? Things that you definitely, we've kind of heard some things we don't want to do. Any other input, that we can reflect on?
David, the only thing I would add is that I don't think that I know that I have not gone to the Library Foundation or the Historical Association and said, we're debating this among the Library Commission. Are you interested in coming? I mean, you can draft something to send out to all of them, or Sean or Nick can, or each of us that are the liaison to those groups could also go back and solicit some free feedback. So if you wanted us to do that and come back and say, here's what they've said, I'm game for that. But I'm also totally willing to have you send something that's a little bit more official.
No, and I appreciate you volunteering. I would one of the other things that can be done with this letter is to thank them for the. I mean, it's also an opportunity to officially sort of acknowledge their affiliate, that they are affiliated to the library and are supporting. So I guess I'd be biased towards making it a little bit more official in that regard. I don't know whether staff sends it or I draft it, and whatever the story is there, we can figure that out. But that, yes, then clearly you could follow up with your conversation with them and get a read on it. But I guess I would like to make it a little bit more formal from our standpoint in terms of acknowledging their great support and how valuable they are. And we have this opportunity for you to come and utilize our forum to help serve you, because you're serving the needs of the library as well. I think that would be the theme there. Okay.
Through the chair, may I offer a suggestion?
Sure.
First of all, a great discussion. Really appreciate it. Based on kind of what I'm hearing, if I could maybe make a couple of suggestions. One is to sort of leverage the community-wide conversation that's happening around preparations for the Menlo Park Community Campus. I think in that whole process, which the Library Commission will be very much engaged in, of planning for that new facility, there may be some existing opportunities to which you can invite the affiliate groups because it's relevant to them. So like, for example, one of the policy reviews and discussions will be around volunteers and external partners and how they're going to interface with the new facility. So perhaps one approach you could take would be to let those affiliate groups know about that discussion, which I think tentatively is for September, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let them know that, acknowledge that it could be relevant to them because they're valued volunteers and community partners to support the library, and invite their attendance and even participation in the discussion.
Great suggestion. Thank you for that. I see that as augmenting a general call for, you know, an opportunity for them. But I think it's great to have, oh, by the way, we do have these things in the future where we would definitely want your, you know, your input. So, okay. Well, with the permission of the commission, I'd be happy to sort of draft a first look at that, with the opportunity for us to revisit it next month. Trying to avoid Brown Act things in terms of circulating a draft and like that, unless I have staff, you know, curate that process and keep us from.
You could form a subcommittee that is comprised of no more than 3 commissioners.
Is that something that 2 other commissioners are interested? Because I kind of feel like I'd like to be involved with that. So are there 2 other commissioners who would like to participate in that process, so we can maybe move it more expeditiously than
Well, can I, first of all, yes, I'd be interested, but secondly, let me just ask a follow-up. So are we saying that a subcommittee would decide on the letter and it would go out, or would it still come back to the commission? Because if it's still going to come back to the whole commission to vote on, maybe it's more efficient for David to just draft something that he thinks appropriate with staff's help, and then, you know, not have it muddied up more if we're all going to vote. If it's more efficient to have a subcommittee, then let's go that way. But
yeah, I wasn't thinking we were going to release it without bringing it back to the whole committee. To be honest with you, the commission, that would be the commission would still see it before it went out. But if 2 other commissioners were involved, that's a pretty significant fraction of the current commission, and in terms of, you know, anyway, that's the only thought there. But
If I
well,
may, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'll throw my hat in if I would be of use. I mean, certainly I was one of the people that was on the commission when we had people coming and feeling like it was a little tedious. So I'm aware of that background, and I'm the liaison to 2 groups. So, you know, it's an interesting topic to me.
okay, appreciate that. Did you have a comment, Sean?
Just that I think what I'd heard in your initial request, David, was to just get a couple more sets of eyes on it before bringing it back. Is that right?
Correct. I mean, like I said, if there's 2 other people involved with it, we're pretty well along towards the whole commission having seen it, at least, so that when we do it again next month, it's not another month before we're agreeing on it. So that was just a thought there. Is there anybody else who'd like to volunteer to be involved? I think we're going to have we'd have 1 meeting basically to review it between now and May.
Yeah, I'm happy to volunteer, David.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other last comments on the topic? Thank you for your feedback. I really want this to be a positive thing. I mean, I feel like it's an opportunity to be a very positive expression of our thanks and offer these affiliate groups an opportunity to take advantage of our forum. So, okay. With that, we will close out the D section of the agenda and move on to informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the Library Commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the Commission. Informational items are not action items, however, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. Tonight we have 2 informational items. The first one is reviewing the Library Commission agenda calendar. Staff liaison, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair Earhart. If anyone would like to make a comment on item E1, the Library Commission agenda planning calendar, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you're dialing in, press *9 now. And seeing none, back to you, Chair Earhart.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions or comments on the calendar? I guess
Oh,
I would,
I'm-
go ahead, go ahead.
No, no. Well, this may be part of it, but my question is, where are we in terms of having new members joining the library commission? I haven't been tracking if the city is on time. I think this right about now is the deadline, correct? So do we know if we are going to have a changed body yet?
That's correct, Commissioner Hadrovich. The application period for those who are interested in serving on the Library Commission just ended. It was April 13th. There are applicants. We have two spots. One is Vice Chair Cohen's spot, whose term is ending, and he's eligible to reapply. And one is Commissioner Lee's spot, which is ending. And there are applicants for the Library Commission. I know the Planning Commission interviews are being done by the City Council at their meeting tomorrow. So usually what they do, they interview the applicants for the Planning Commission, but then they just have a discussion and appoint for all the other commissions. And I believe that's coming up towards the end of April.
April 26th is the tentative date for the council to make appointments to the Library Commission.
So it's possible that the appointments could be made and the new commissioners onboarded in time for the May 16th meeting. It's a little tight, but it could happen.
Okay, well, that's the only question. I mean, in the past couple of years, because of the pandemic, they really had to extend the deadline. It sounds like they haven't done that yet. My only questions about next month are whether or not selecting the commission chair and vice chair is possible if we don't have our complete new commissions seated yet. But I guess we could wait to see, and if it isn't, then move it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep positive thinking on that.
Yeah, me too. But I just was curious, given
Yeah.
the last couple of years.
Yeah. The one thing I would comment then would be relative to the previous topic would be to add in a placeholder for a final, review of the affiliate group.
Absolutely. Yep.
And if we are actually onboarding, if there's going to be new members of the commission, we should probably have just a little bit of time baked in to introduce who they are and welcome them onto the commission. But whether it's May I hope it is May. So,
well, we would need to do it in May because June right now is currently planned to be a joint meeting. So the amount of library.
So
specific,
if the council is gonna approve people in April, then I think the expectation would be that anyone approved would be at the May meeting. So if I just think that we should plan to have the welcome introduction and then some remarks. And David, I think that you suggested a year ago or 2 years ago the idea of talking about maybe having mentor or big brother. I'm losing the right word, but someone who is, kind of a welcoming liaison to new people on our board. So that would be something that we could talk about then too.
Exactly. I mean, I do think, and some of you, I know I gave a little bit of a onboarding to when you joined. Hopefully that was of some benefit. But yeah, I'd like to see if we could do a little bit of a onboarding buddy, conversation if we could when they first show up. Any other comments on May's proposed agenda? Nick, could you scroll down just a little bit so we can see the rest of the. So July, we're still planning on a social event, fingers crossed.
Could I just chime in about June?
Yeah.
I just want to note that a joint meeting right now, that date, June 22nd, is a Wednesday as opposed to a Monday. So just want to make sure that's on everyone's radar calendar because it's a different day.
And remind me, is that we're now using the PRC date then? Is that what the 22nd is? I know
Yeah.
they came to our Monday meeting the last time, so we're
Yes,
We're showing.
and in June, as it so happens, the third Monday of the month and the fourth Wednesday of the month, which are the respective dates that the two commissions typically meet, they happen to land in the same week.
Okay,
So it's the same week, it's just Wednesday instead of Monday.
thank you for reminding us, but I think it was fair for us to move our meeting to accommodate their schedule since they did it for us in, was it December? I forget now when the show meeting was. Okay, any other questions or comments about the agenda? Proposed agenda? So it sounds like the only thing that we're talking about changing, Nick, is adding in a bullet about reviewing and approving the message to the affiliates. Great, thank you.
Got it.
Moving on to E2 department updates. Am I reading that or are you reading that, Nick?
I can give some department updates. I think I put some notes on the chair's notes there.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for library commissioners to have a guided tour of the Redwood City Library's recently opened makerspace. The makerspace is going to be something that's new in the Menlo Park Community Campus building. It's something that the staff here at the library is actually going to be purchasing some equipment and then trying out some programming ideas here at the main library, existing main library and branch library over the next year, sort of in preparation for moving to the MPCC. But if there's any interest from commissioners in touring the Redwood City Library Makerspace, let me know and I can arrange a tour.
So you're suggesting in your notes about if there is, which I think we should get a vocal affirmation of that today, if there is, then you would send out some sort of prompt as far as finding a time that would work for the majority of the people. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. I'm definitely interested. I'd like to see how that's what it could potentially look like in terms of our new space as well. But if it was just me, I wouldn't. Just for me. So
No, I'd be interested in going too, and I wonder even if we might be able to keep a spot or two open for anyone that might be a member of the public, but comes to our meetings, pays attention, and might want to have an opportunity to see that as well.
Sure. Yeah, some of the youth advisory committee might be interested as well. I was thinking of rolling it all up together.
that'd be great. So it sounds like we've got enough interest that if you sent it to the whole commission, we can give you feedback on that then.
Will do.
Thank you.
I have a couple of more updates. One update is that the city council tomorrow will be reviewing the budget principles for the upcoming fiscal year. As well, they will be reviewing some very preliminary service level enhancements from all of the departments in the city, like any budget additions, particularly staff additions. So that report has been published. It, again, is for the city council meeting tomorrow night. And so I'll just use that opportunity to give the library commission a quick update. You may recall that because the libraries both opened to in-person services way back in June of 2021, which was the beginning of the new fiscal year. At that time, the city council chose to essentially restore the library budget and staffing to where it had been pre-pandemic. So this year, there isn't a need for additional staffing or in a substantial way. So the library department or division will have basically a status quo budget. So there won't be any service level enhancements necessarily in that report that's going to the city council tomorrow, but I did want to give you a heads up that it's happening. And then I also wanted to let you know that on May 10th is when the city council is tentatively scheduled to have a study session about the MPCC guiding principles and operational plan milestones, which this commission reviewed earlier this evening. So that is a meeting that I would recommend that library commissioners tune into if you're available, and that's Tuesday, May 10th. And those are my updates.
Thank you. Nick, do you want to cover the last department update item that's on the?
I forgot what it was. What is it?
Little Free Library Incentive Program.
Oh, there we go. That's right. So
You don't get my notes. You just give them away.
I type them up and then they're gone. They're out there. The Library Foundation has generously put up some more money for another round of the Little Free Library Incentive Program. So we're gonna get together internally here and meet with Public Works and try to get that up and running again. We've had some interest already. If just reminding you, the Little Free Library Incentive Program was where the city bought and installed little free libraries all over Menlo Park. We ended up doing 27. So we have enough funding to do about 25 more. And we've already gotten some interest from the existing Little Free Libraries network that's up. So hopefully if we open up another application period, we'll get a good, strong response. There's still a lot of interest in having little free libraries, which is great.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I guess Little Free Library related, I would love to see another cycling tour of the installations. I don't know that we saw. I want to say we saw like a dozen the last time. I don't remember the exact number. It was a great tour, but if there's any opportunity before too long to do that, so since it's outside and therefore potentially a little less risky from a COVID standpoint, I would encourage the commission to participate in that. It was quite interesting to see the diversity of neighborhoods, the diversity of the character of the libraries. It was really very nice to see.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we won't do the ones up in Sharon Heights. We won't make you go uphill unless we divide it and do 2 rides where we just do one that's like straight uphill and the other ones.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do we have any public comment on the departmental updates?
If anyone would like to make a comment on item E2, department updates, use that raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom screen or press *9 if you're dialing in now. I think we've commented enough for everybody tonight at this point. So there's no public comment showing. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move on to item F, the commissioner reports. At this time, are there any reports that library commissioners would like to make for activities since the last meeting in March? Well, I will comment. I was actually out on the track this morning before sunrise. Maybe I shouldn't have been there, but I was. And you had mentioned, Nick, about the framing. It's from the track side, since it's so much closer to the track than sort of to the parking lot. You can't get. It really is an impressive, structure. So just so far. So I was trying to imagine, what it's going to look like when it eventually gets there. But it was impressive how going from the groundbreaking, when it was a few months ago to where they are right now. Quite impressive. So thanks for reminding me about going look at that. Any other reports from the commission? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your attendance. The time is 7:47 p.m. on March 18th. I'm sorry, April 18th, tax day. So, all right.
Back to the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
good evening.
everyone. Thank you, attendees.